Alright, we are now officially back as we are already nearing the end of the month of November. Thanksgiving had already came, the holiday season is about to begin, but before the holidays begin, it is time once again to do another round of Oscar nomination predictions on my channel for the month of November. Before we begin my predictions of the Big 8, we need to talk about any update glances since what happened since the last nomination prediction video, and the biggest thing, of course, that occurred is that the SAG-AFTRA strike has finally come to an end. On November 9th, SAG-AFTRA finally made their deal with the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers and major big CEO Hollywood executives of major companies, and finally have made an agreement. So it has been long overdue, and the strikes in Hollywood are now over. So that means the actors are now allowed to go back and promoting their films through interviews on television, radio, online videos, you name it, instead of just promoting like books or just attending sporting events or stuff like that. But now they can finally talk about their movies and television shows. That's pretty exciting. So congratulations to SAG-AFTRA, although they had a bit of a struggling for the past, well, almost, like, for about a 5-month period, and if you do count the Writers Guild, it was a 7th-month period. So it's finally have come agreed that everyone is be able to come back to work, except for the writers, because they had stated, I believe, the Writers Guild will go back to work at the beginning of 2024. And speaking of the Writers Guild, I want to bring up something here that you might not see that will be coming up in this channel. The Writers Guild of America Awards is going to be a post-Oscar ceremony. Yes, because since the Writers Guild will not be returning back to work until the beginning of 2024, they have pushed their Writers Guild Award show to April 14th, just basically a month after the Oscars. So it's going to be the only major post-Oscar award show. So basically, I won't be able to do a prediction video on that, unless if I do a short video on that, just to complete it. But yep, the Writers Guild will not be happening during the main period of the award season. Some of the scheduling are still going to conflicts. The Gloden Globes is another big massive update here. CBS has gotten the ceremony now on television, because obviously that's the television station that got, like, obviously the Emmys, they have the Tonys, they have the Grammys. They can't get the Oscars because that's ABC's thing, so they have finally got their own movie award show. The only thing is, if the Golden Globes, the Hollywood Foreign Press announced if it's now going to be a public voting thing, then basically the ceremony is done. And especially since there are 2 new categories they create. One is for best stand-up in the television side, and then what was the original Academy Awards best popular movie category now going to the Golden Globes. That's ridiculous. Critics' Choice, that's a completely different thing. I have not seen a particular date yet here in the Producers Guild or Directors Guild here. BAFTAs are on February 18th. Screen Actors Guild are on February 24th. I forget when the Indie Spirits are going to be, but I know for a fact by next week, in the beginning of December, the Independent Spirit Award nominations will be announced, and I know their nominations will be announced. But once the Golden Globe nomination, and the nominations for the Golden Globes will be on December 4th. I don't know when Critics' Choice is. And then in terms of the main ceremony itself, nothing has really changed. The ceremony has not been pushed back. The big major announcement is that Jimmy Kimmel is coming back to hosting again for his 4th time. Like, not a good choice, but at least he doesn't do anything that is cringy, at least. And hopefully, because with Matt Damon being in Oppenheimer and potentially Air, that would give Kimmel a lot of Matt Damon fun. So I can't wait for that if that happens. And also on December 21st, the Oscar shortlist will be announced. So basically, we'll get the shortlist for documentary feature, international feature, the short films, original song, original score, sound, visual effects, and makeup and hairstyling. I also believe sometime soon we're also going to get the submission list for the 3 featured film categories, including Best Animated Feature, which usually that submission list is their short list. The documentary and internationals will get a short list later in the 21st. So, yeah, we're going to be seeing a lot of glances when we're coming into some of the big major ones. And in terms of what is left to come, there are only a few more movies left for the month of December that will be coming out. There are 2 big major ones, which are, of course, The Color Purple and The Iron Claw. The Color Purple, obviously, a lot of people thought it could have been pushed back if the strikes continued, but nope, that is still going on. As well as The Iron Claw, the new A24 film that had its first screening, I believe, on the day when SAG-AFTRA told them no longer to pick it, as the deal was about to come in and the following day. So those 2 films that not a lot of people have seen are will be officially be seen by the time we get to nearing the end of the year. There are also a couple of other notable films, like Poor Things will officially get its full run, as well as The Zone of Interest. Origin as well. We're going to get Wonka, Chicken Run, Dawn of the Nugget, the official release of American Fiction, and then a couple of potential ones, like, yeah, you still got, like, The Boys in the Boat from George Clooney and Ferrari from Michael Mann. And I think the U.S. release of The Boy and the Heroine is supposed to be out, I believe. So, yeah, we got a few more big major movies here, and if the strike still continued, a lot of those movies, minus the ones that have already been screened, like specifically like The Color Purple or Wonka, they could have been pushed back. So yeah, these are the last big major movies to come out. We do not count the Beyonce Renaissance concert film because no one doesn't want that. Same thing with the Swift Eras Tour film. That's not going to happen in the Oscar nights. Unless they're going to just bring Taylor Swift to the ceremony for ratings purposes. Hope they don't do that. So, yep, so that is basically all the cover-ups. Already, a lot of the movies have already been out, like Saltburn, Maestro, Napoleon, Wish, Next Gold Wins. Some of them might not be Oscar candidates. Some of them might in technical stuff. But let's see how my predictions are going to be. And let me just tell you, for my predictions, there were a lot of changes. I will say probably the easiest thing to tell you is that the screenplays still have not changed. And I'm still waiting until see what the Academy is confirming where they're going to put Barbie, because I'm not going by the Warner Brothers FYC Act. So, adapted screenplay, it's still Court Jefferson for American Fiction, Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach for Barbie, Eric Roth and Martin Scorsese for Killers of the Flower Moon, Christopher Nolan for Oppenheimer, and Tony McNamara for Poor Things. And for original screenplay, it's still Justin Triet and Arthur Harari for Anatomy of a Fall, David Hymanson for The Holdovers, Sean Durkin for The Iron Claw, Sammy Burch and Alex Machank for May December, and Celine Son for Past Lives. I decided to put these 2 together because nothing has really changed. Only thing is, I might be underestimating Maestro here, but I don't know if that's because May December feels like more of a screenplay thing for Netflix, while Maestro's more like yeah, Maestro's going to be their top candidate, but like May December, it has to show up somewhere in the big age. So now, if Barbie does confirm the original, I might bottom The Iron Claw out, and whoever would be an adapted, maybe Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. That could be a possibility, but since now with Wish coming out, and we kind of now know who is more likely the animated feature frontrunner at the moment, but at the moment, I have not changed anything. I will tell you, it was a little bit of a bumpy ride, I would say, for my acting predictions, because a couple of changes did have to be made, but I almost had to took some people out, bring some people back in, took them back out, bring them back in. Oh boy. And since there was one movie that had already got massive hype screenings, and a lot of people have already said it's one of the best of the year, that's just saying with just that one screening, unless you had an awesome experience with the movie. But we'll just have to wait and see. So at the moment, for supporting actress, I've got Emily Blunt in Oppenheimer, Daniela Brooks in The Color Purple, Jodie Foster in Nyad, Taraji B. Henson in The Color Purple, and Divine Joy Randolph in The Holdovers. So The Color Purple has gotten its first major screening, And a lot of people have been praising Danielle Brooks, Taraji B. Henson, and Fantasia Barrino, but at the moment, I don't have it hyping up at the moment, because you gotta remember, that was just only a few little screenings, and also the public has not seen it, but I still keep them both in. Because with me still going on the Annette Bening career win, I had to put Jodie Foster in here to show at least there is some support for the film. Blunt, I almost took out because I keep thinking, oh, they're like the screen time is gonna be her biggest thing, but it's just like Oppenheimer is definitely gonna be overperforming, because the thing is, I did had Cara Jade Myers in Killers of the Flower Moon here throughout most of this month. But as you can see, Killers of the Flower Moon, I have a little bit of questioning going on throughout this prediction video, so yeah, you'll have to see what I mean. And on to supporting actor, I think this is where we're kind of going to see a little bit of some losing momentum for Killers of the Flower Moon. And that starts in this category for supporting actor. I have Sterling K. Brown in American Fiction, Robert Downey Jr. in Oppenheimer, Ryan Gosling in Barbie, Mark Ruffalo in Poor Things, and Jeremy Allen White in The Iron Claw. So I have taken out Robert De Niro in here because it is kind of hard for him nowadays to get in an acting nomination, because if you go in between his last two acting nominations, Cape Fear and Silver Linings Playbook, that's a long gap. And we're not talking about his Best Picture nomination for The Irishman. That's a different story. So I thought, okay, maybe that would make it up for him. And then there is something else I do think is probably going to hurt De Niro's chances, is of him losing a lawsuit he just lost to probably one of his former workers that worked for a female worker who worked for him. I don't remember this, but I did saw this. But yeah, so De Niro losing a lawsuit, that might have maybe some current events might have some people doubting him to get in here, and also with the losing momentum of Killers of the Flower Moon, which I will more talk about that when I think we'll get into director. So yeah, Sterling K. Brown, I wanted to overperform a little bit of American Fiction, because if you're the TIFF winner, you basically could really do well on nominations. And other than, like, I would say film editing, there is another place where I think American Fiction really could do here is supporting actor for Sterling K. Brown. I almost consider, I believe it was Tracy Ellis Ross that's in the movie, I believe, unless if I'm mistaken, because for supporting actress, if that's correct, yeah, I was almost considering Tracy Ellis Ross. Even Issa Rae is also on here. But I think Sterling K. Brown, who's playing the brother of Jeffrey Wright's character in American Fiction, I think that will do it for him. Gosling and Downey, definitely top two. Ruffalo, definitely the strong candidate for Poor Things. We're going to have to see how The Iron Claw does with Jeremy Allen White, and maybe if The Color Purple does, maybe Coleman Domingo could get in here for this. And it could be more likely, because you'll see what happens when it gets to Best Actor. Best Actress is the only acting category I did not make any changes. I'm still going to say Annette Bening for her career win in Naiad. Then Lily Gladstone in Killers of the Flower Moon. I think if there is any place where Killers of the Flower Moon is definitely safe for, is for Best Actress. Sandra Hüller in Anatomy of a Fall, Carey Mulligan in Maestro, and Emma Stone in Poor Things. If The Color Purple does well, and we don't see Bening getting nominated in any categories, like Gloden Globes probably, maybe SAG, but like, if we see more Fantasia Barrino, like, I would not be surprised if they miss SAG because maybe of a late screener, unless the SAG nominations would come in later in January or something like that. So if I hear high praises for Fantasia Barrino, I would probably put her in over Bening. For actor, kind of like I'm similar doing a little bit with American Fiction, I wanted to overperform a little bit of a particular movie that not a lot of people have seen yet, but this might just be like the random fifth slot to see how many people are going to think about it, so we'll see. Maybe he could get a Golden Globe nomination or something like that. So for Best Actor, I've got Bradley Cooper in Maestro, Zac Efron in The Iron Claw, Paul Giamatti in The Holdovers, Cillian Murphy in Oppenheimer, and Jeffrey Wright in American Fiction. So I have taken Colman Domingo out here for Rustin, because here's the thing. Although, yeah, The Color Purple, most likely he could get in, but here's the thing. It's almost like a lot of the times in recent years it's been always a Netflix candidate. And, like, there's always that one performance in one movie that's the only nomination for that film throughout the entire season. And it's commonly for a Netflix film. We saw this for the past 2 years with Eddie Redmayne in The Good Nurse and Ruth Negga in Passing. They were the only 2 nominations that got in throughout most of the entire season, and then comes Oscar nominations day, they're gone. And I think that's going to happen. Colman Domingo is probably going to be the only nomination for Rustin throughout the entire season, and he's going to miss on Oscar nominations day. He would get nominated for everything else, but not for Rustin. He might be for The Color Purple for supporting actor if they liked him better in that, if they're not really fans of Rustin, because Rustin's guaranteed not going to get in for Best Picture, and Maestro is going to be their high priority. I'm still saying DiCaprio's going to pull the De Niro thing in the Best Actor category, so I am not going with him. Like, yeah, he's probably going to get nominated in a lot of places, but I'm not going with DiCaprio at all. Alright, so Best Director is going to have a lot of people wondering, where is this particular filmmaker? Well, as I kind of a little bit stated here, I want to talk a little bit about Killers of the Flower Moon here. And if you have seen in a lot of people's predictions, or for a lot of people who have seen the movie, a lot of people have said it's not really one of Scorsese's best. It's not like, some people were not liking, it's not like Departed or Goodfellas territory or Raging Bull or Taxi Driver or even Wolf of Wall Street for some people. It's just a lot of people, although they love the performance of Lily Gladstone, a lot of people do like some of the performances, but a lot of people were not really fans of, like, the script. Some people think the movie was really way too long, and on top of that, its box office performance is not doing well. It's like over... it's not going to even make... it's over a $200 million budget film, and it's only grossed over so far a little bit over $145 million, I believe, or 140 by the time this weekend occurs. So, yeah, and not to mention you got the toxic Marvel fans that are backlashing him and do not want to watch this movie in support of their genre. And also, it's just that a lot of people are now viewing this more as Oscar baitness, it looks like, because other than Lily Gladstone, a lot of people have been losing momentum of Killers of the Flower Moon. Like, sure, it could overperform on Oscar nominations day, and we're all going to regret this, but it's just like, it doesn't have the passion as a lot of people have done. So that's why I took Martin Scorsese out for Best Director as a big snub. Another snub I took out Greta Gerwig in here for Barbie, but I do have a woman in here. But I did took Justin Triet out here. Now, here's the thing. With Anatomy of a Fall, another film that a lot of people have losing momentum. Like, sure, BAFTA can bring it back up. But a lot of people have now been seeing the movie, and some people have stated that there's more English in the movie than there is in French. So there is a potential reason why the movie was not submitted for the Best International Feature category, other than it was confirmed that the members of the French Committee of the Branch vote against Triet for what she said about their country's president at a speech she did when her film won in Cannes. So with that, I did have to try to figure out which non-English language film candidate I want to put in. I was not going to go back with Jonathan Glazer, because I could see The Zone of Interest being an extremely cold movie, like Foxcatcher, for an example, where it's not going to be a movie that is, like, for everyone's thing. It's going to be very slow. It's going to be very, like, yeah, it's probably going to be a movie everyone would watch, but it's just, like, it would make sense why it premiered at Cannes like Foxcatcher did, where it's going to be an extremely cold movie. And I could see that happening, where some people would probably feel cold watching The Zone of Interest. So that means, who would be my international candidate? I have mentioned him a couple of times, and if he starts to get any critic wins, like in Los Angeles or New York, I think he could actually get in here. Especially since his legacy of filmmaking has been throughout many decades, and he's been very overlooked by the Academy, minus his documentary films. And then also you got 2 of the strong candidates, and I also brought in somebody here because the movie has now been being more the feel-goodness one. So with that said, my director lineup is Alexander Payne for The Holdovers, Christopher Nolan for Oppenheimer, Celine Song for Past Lives, Wim Wenders for Perfect Days, and Yorgos Lanthimos for Poor Things. So Nolan and Lanthimos guaranteed strong. Payne, I feel like now, like, if The Holdovers is definitely going to be a top 5 candidate, I feel like more of a strong candidate. If there has to be like at least one movie that, like 3 movies mainly, that gets in for directing, editing, and writing, and I feel like it doesn't feel like we're in an acting nomination. Now, I'm not saying like The Holdovers is like a top 3 candidate, but definitely like a top 5 candidate. And that's what I feel like The Holdovers is, so that's why I put Payne in there. I think like it would be like the Tar of this year. Like, not saying like Tar's going to go home empty-handed, because there's a possibility it could win original screenplay and Divine Joy Randolph. It's just like it's going to be that feel-goodness. I did almost consider Cord Jefferson for American Fiction here, but I really want to see how The Color Purple does, if that movie has a standout for its direction when people see it. Celine Song here. So, as I stated last month, I had Past Lives going in the women talking scenario, where it just gets picture and screenplay and nothing else. Well, now I have Past Lives going into the Licorice Pizza and Triangle of Sadness route, where it gets original screenplay, director, and picture without any acting nominations. Now, Past Lives is most likely also in a candidacy for the original score category, so there is a possibility it could get at least 4 nominations, if not for any actors like Greta Lee or John Magaro or Tae-yo. But I feel like there has to be at least one female candidate, and she would also be the only colored director in the list, since she is an Asian. So that's why I have chose Celine Song instead of Greta Gerwig or Justin Triet at the moment. Now, with Wim Wenders, I didn't originally think of having him and Triet both in the lineup. But the problem is, both films are from Neon. And normally, in the director lineup, unless if you were in the Weinstein days, 2 movies from the same studio don't get nominated twice in the director category, or multiple times. So that's why I had to choose Perfect Days instead of Anatomy of a Fall, because I had to choose one or the other, because it has to be at least one Neon film. Because you already have Searchlight with Poor Things, Universal with Oppenheimer, I believe Focus Features is The Holdovers, and then you got the indie one with A24 with Past Lives. You can also say the thing with Warner Brothers with either The Color Purple or Barbie. What else? Maybe even a couple other candidates. I'm losing the top of my... maybe even Sean Durkin, I believe, for The Iron Claw. But at the moment, I feel like Wenders, he has been a long legacy, and I feel like if they really want to... If this means I have Wenders in for director, that means I would have it as the frontrunner for the best international feature category. So I would have Perfect Days kind of going in the another round scenario, where it just gets international feature and director. So at the moment, I don't have it for original screenplay or any acting nominations, but I feel like it could do that another round scenario, where it just gets international feature and director. Yeah, it was a bad move taking Scorsese out, but if the movie starts to losing its momentum, then I think he has to be out for director. Because I can see Killers of the Flower Moon could potentially maybe be like The Age of Innocence, or Cape Fear, or Casino, I believe, where it just is in the lower tier Big A categories, but not something like director or picture. So I could see like Killers being like that, like some of Scorsese's other films that were, as I just mentioned, that just only gets in like screenplay and acting nods, but doesn't get in like the top tier candidacies, or just maybe just acting in general.